Stop. Stop looking for approval. Stop bending yourself to fit the expectations of others. Every second you crave validation is a second wasted. Your focus, your energy, your life slipping away. This audiobook will teach you how to reclaim your authority, silence the need for praise, and build unshakable self-worth through quiet, relentless action. By the end, you will no longer ask for permission, seek applause, or explain yourself. You will act, execute, and grow on your own terms. Chapter 1. The silent cost of seeking validation. You are wasting your life. Not because you lack talent, not because you lack opportunity. You are wasting it because you give it away. Every glance you seek, every approval you crave, every nod, like, or compliment, that is time lost. That is energy lost. That is attention stolen from your growth. Approval is a tax on your life. Approval is a tax on your life. Approval is a tax on your life. Repeat that. Say it in your mind. Let it sink. You pay this tax every day. You do not need to. You have a choice. You can stop. You must stop. Consider the professional who waits for recognition. They sit in meetings, sharing ideas carefully curated to please others. They hold back opinions that challenge consensus. They present watered-down versions of themselves. They think recognition will validate them. It does not. Their ideas stagnate. Their influence stagnates. Their progress stalls. Approval is a tax on your life. It is invisible. It is silent, but it compounds. Every hour spent seeking validation is an hour you cannot spend mastering your craft. Every action performed to impress someone is an action removed from deliberate growth. You have a choice. You can choose focus. You can choose mastery. You do not need their permission. Look at the entrepreneur who mirrors public opinion. They adjust their message to match the expectations of the market. They copy trends. They follow the crowd. They chase applause. They fail. Their vision is diluted. Their identity is borrowed. Their work lacks coherence. It will not last. Approval is a tax on your life. It is a silent drain. It is unavoidable unless you decide otherwise. That is the key. Now understand this. Approval is not inherently bad. Feedback can be useful. Mentorship can be essential. But there is a distinction. The distinction is control. Are you acting for yourself or for them? You have a choice. That is the key. You do not need their permission. You will never get full validation. No one can give it. True authority comes from internal alignment, not external applause. Here is the system. Begin by auditing every action. Ask yourself, am I doing this to gain recognition? Or am I doing this because it matters? Be ruthless. Be honest. Every action performed for approval is a tax you must pay. Every action performed for self-directed growth is an investment you will never regret. You have a choice. That is the key. Next, develop structural safeguards. Limit social media consumption. Reduce unnecessary comparison. Do not ask for feedback on small efforts. Measure progress privately. Record it. Track it. Systems are silent. Systems are powerful. Approval seeks noise. Systems create discipline. It is not about the applause. It is about the structure. It is not about being seen. It is about being consistent. Practice selective disclosure. Share results, not effort. Share achievements, not intentions. Speak when necessary. Act always. The world may ignore you. That is acceptable. It is part of the process. The reward is never external in the beginning. Approval will come later if your work is correct, or it will not. It does not matter. You have a choice. That is the key. You must accept discomfort. Seeking validation is comfortable. It feels easy to gain temporary affirmation. It feels rewarding to be praised. But comfort is the enemy of mastery. You must tolerate silence. You must endure the absence of recognition. This is where real work occurs. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You repeat, you refine, you improve. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. That is the key. Here is a behavioral rule to implement immediately. For 1 week, identify every instance you seek approval. Write it down. Note the action. Note the intended audience. Note the expected reaction. Then, redesign the action for internal validation. Do it for yourself first. Do not announce it. Do not ask for confirmation. Track results privately. This is practice. This is discipline. You have a choice. That is the key. Consider real examples. A professional in law waits for a partner to recognize their efforts. They defer decisions, adjust reports, modify strategies, all for approval. Growth is halted. Meanwhile, a colleague focuses on competence. They train, research, and act quietly. Recognition comes after mastery. The silent worker builds authority without distraction. Approval is a tax on your life. They have eliminated the tax. That is the difference. That is the system. Another example, a writer posts frequently online, chasing likes. They revise work to gain comments. They censor content that challenges readers. Their audience is passive. Their craft is compromised. Meanwhile, a writer works in solitude, drafts, edits, rewrites, improves, publishes when ready. Recognition may follow, or it may not. It does not matter. Growth occurs regardless. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. That is the key. Now, understand the principle deeply. Your energy is finite. Your attention is finite. Every second spent on seeking approval is stolen from silent progress. Discipline is your remedy. Systems are your armor. Structural consistency is your weapon. You do not need their permission. You have a choice. You must act. Repeat actions that serve growth. Repeat actions that serve mastery. Avoid actions that serve applause. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. Finally, internalize this. Approval is not the enemy. Dependency is. Recognition is not forbidden. Reliance is. Your task is to create a framework where external validation is irrelevant, where results emerge from repetition, where mastery is the outcome. You have a choice. That is the key. You do not need their permission. You act. You repeat. You grow. This chapter closes with a firm principle. Every effort, every action, every thought should be filtered through one question. Am I paying a tax on my life? Or am I investing in it? Systems over approval. Repetition over applause. Discipline over desire. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. Next, we will examine how to stop proving and start doing. How to convert your understanding into structured action. How to act without seeking applause. How to create a silent momentum that builds authority while the world waits. That is the next step. That is the bridge from knowledge to mastery. Chapter 2. Stop proving and start doing. You're living under a compulsion to prove yourself, to show others you're capable, to justify your existence through recognition, to seek applause for effort rather than results. This compulsion is a tax. It is silent, it is constant, and it will destroy your focus. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Repeat it. Say it aloud in your mind. Let it embed in your thinking. Your explanations do not build mastery. Your rationalizations do not create skill. Your justifications do not produce results. Only action produces growth. Only action produces competence. Only action produces authority. Consider the athlete. One performs for the crowd. Every training session is calculated for observation. Every lift, every sprint, every drill is designed to impress someone. They seek validation. They measure their progress against applause. They wear themselves out under the gaze of others. Yet, their skill remains limited. They are dependent on external metrics. They are dependent on judgment. They are dependent on attention. They are vulnerable. Approval is a tax on your life. Now, consider the athlete who trains in solitude. They train when no one watches. They lift when no one records. They practice when no one applauds. They focus on the repetition, the precision, the system. They measure progress privately. They track performance against themselves. No audience is necessary. No recognition is required. Results compound. Mastery emerges. Authority grows silently. One day, when they step into the public arena, dominance is evident. They do not need to prove themselves. They already have. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You can stop performing for validation. You can stop seeking approval. You can stop explaining. That is the key. You act first. You measure second. You explain never. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Here is the principle. Proving yourself is exhausting. It creates constant pressure. It forces adaptation to external expectations. It removes control. It removes clarity. It removes consistency. Action removes all of this. Action is your control. Action is your clarity. Action is your consistency. You have a choice. That is the key. Now, translate principle into practice. First, define your system. Identify the essential actions that advance your craft, your work, your life. Write them down. Track them. Commit to repetition. Do them regardless of observation. Do them regardless of approval. Systems are neutral. Systems do not require applause. Systems deliver results. That is the discipline. That is the structure. That is the difference between proving and doing. Next, create a feedback loop independent of others. Measure progress objectively. Use metrics that matter to your growth, not their opinion. If you're writing, measure words written, concepts developed, ideas tested. If you're training, measure reps completed, technique refined, performance improved. If you're learning, measure retention, comprehension, skill execution. External applause is irrelevant. Internal alignment is everything. You have a choice. That is the key. Let us address discomfort. Proving is comfortable because it transfers responsibility. You rely on judgment to validate effort. Doing is uncomfortable because results are private. Progress is silent. Growth is unobserved. You will feel exposed. You will feel insecure. That is acceptable. That is necessary. Discomfort is the currency of mastery. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. That is the key. Now, consider repetition. Daily execution, even in silence, compounds. Action done consistently outperforms sporadic demonstration. Athletes, writers, creators, leaders all operate on this principle. They repeat the essential. They ignore spectators. They do not perform. They produce. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is a rule to implement immediately. Identify one area where you're performing to prove yourself. Reduce visibility. Reduce commentary. Reduce social display. Focus only on the task. Track results privately. Repeat daily. Measure silently. Evaluate objectively. This is your training. This is your discipline. This is your system. That is the key. Consider real-world evidence. Entrepreneurs often perform to signal competence. Presentations are polished for approval. Strategy is modified for recognition. Growth is shallow. Now compare the entrepreneur who builds quietly. They iterate in private. They test assumptions. They refine systems. They launch only when stable. Recognition follows performance. Dependence on validation is eliminated. Systems over applause. Repetition over recognition. That is the discipline. This principle applies universally. In relationships, in work, in creativity, in health. When you act to prove, you relinquish control. When you act to execute, you claim mastery. You're no longer dependent on attention. You're no longer dependent on judgment. You're no longer dependent on recognition. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is a behavioral system to adopt. For the next 30 days, identify tasks currently performed for recognition. Rewrite them for execution only. Remove audience. Remove expectation. Remove commentary. Repeat silently. Measure privately. Document objectively. Observe results. Adjust systems. Repeat. This is not optional. It is training. It is discipline. It is mastery. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. That is the key. You must internalize this. Your energy is finite. Your attention is finite. Every moment spent proving yourself is a moment diverted from actual growth. Every hour spent explaining is an hour removed from repetition. Your life is not meant to be a display. Your work is not a performance. Your competence is not a conversation. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You act. You measure. You repeat. That is the system. That is the discipline. Finally, let us close with clarity. Proving is noise. Doing is signal. Proving is tax. Doing is investment. Proving is temporary. Doing is permanent. Your task is to prioritize action over explanation. Execution over performance. Systems over applause. Discipline over desire. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. Action outperforms explanation. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You will act. You will repeat. You will dominate silently. Next, we move to Chapter 3, Understand Your Inner Authority. You will learn how to build internal approval, how to measure progress by your own standards, how to cultivate competence that requires no external recognition, how to become unshakable in your focus, silent in your growth, and relentless in your execution. That is the bridge from doing to mastery. That is the next step. Chapter 3, Understand Your Inner Authority. True power is not given. It is claimed. True authority is not observed. It is internalized. The foundation of all mastery is self-approval. The measure of competence is your own judgment. The only opinion that matters is your own. The only opinion that matters is your own. Repeat it. Let's settle. Let it become your framework. Most people look outside for guidance. They adjust behavior based on approval. They calibrate effort based on judgment. They allow others to dictate their confidence. This is dependency. This is weakness. This is taxation on your life. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Historical figures understood this. They acted in silence. They ignored critics. They ignored applause. They trusted their process. Consider Isaac Newton. He worked in isolation, developing the laws of motion. Critics would later praise him. Yet, he acted for knowledge, not approval. Consider Marie Curie. She conducted experiments in secrecy, faced doubt, and advanced science profoundly. Recognition came much later, after the work was done. The pattern is clear. Authority grows quietly. It does not seek validation. The only opinion that matters is your own. The only opinion that matters is your own. Now, understand the principle. External approval is temporary. Praise fades. Critics shift. Recognition is conditional. Systems, repetition, and competence are permanent. Internal approval is constant. Internal judgment is unshakable. That is the foundation of authority. That is the structure you must build. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is the system. Begin by auditing your decisions. Track which choices are influenced by external opinion. Note when fear of judgment shapes your action. Then, reframe. Ask, is this choice aligned with my goals? Is this action consistent with my principles? Act only when aligned. Act only when disciplined. Measure results internally. The only opinion that matters is your own. Repeat it daily. Embed it. Make it the first filter for every action. Self-approval is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is precision. It is discipline. Confusion comes when you rely on others. Dependence on validation creates hesitation. Hesitation kills momentum. Momentum is power. Build momentum internally. Measure it internally. Trust it internally. That is the bridge between doing and mastery. That is how silent authority is forged. Consider another historical example, Nikola Tesla. He faced ridicule. He faced skepticism. He persisted in laboratories alone, driven by vision, not applause. He ignored the crowd. He measured success by his own metrics. His innovations changed the world. Approval did not drive him. Internal standards did. The only opinion that matters is your own. The only opinion that matters is your own. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the system. Here is the behavioral rule. For 1 week, make a record of decisions where external opinion influenced you. Identify the fear. Identify the outcome. Next, redesign the decision for internal approval. Ask only, does this align with my principle? Does this advance my skill? Does this produce measurable progress? Ignore outside voices. Ignore recognition. Track only outcomes relevant to your framework. Repeat. This is training. This is conditioning. This is mastery. You must also develop mental boundaries. Opinions of others will reach you constantly. Some may be helpful. Most will be noise. Learn to filter. Filter for relevance. Filter for evidence. Filter for alignment with your principles. Everything else is distraction. Authority does not react. Authority does not debate. Authority observes. Authority acts according to internal judgment. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Practice consistency in silence. Perform tasks without announcement. Complete projects without explanation. Refine skills without sharing progress. This builds competence and confidence simultaneously. Confidence sourced internally is resilient. Confidence sourced externally is fragile. The only opinion that matters is your own. Repeat it. Repeat it. Repeat it. Another example, Eleanor Roosevelt. She faced scrutiny and judgment from public and private life. She acted in alignment with her beliefs. She advanced causes silently at first. Recognition followed later. She exercised internal authority in every decision. She understood external validation is fleeting. Internal authority is unshakable. That is the lesson. That is the rule. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Next, adopt practical systems. Create a daily practice of reflection. Review actions. Assess alignment with your principles. Remove adjustments made to appease others. Reframe the work you do for personal standards. Maintain a private record of progress. Set milestones internally. Celebrate completion privately. Systems, repetition, and internal measurement build authority faster than applause ever could. That is the rule. That is the discipline. That is how mastery grows. Understand the principle fully. Authority is silent. Approval is loud. Authority does not need recognition. Authority does not require explanation. Authority operates independently of observers. Approval will fluctuate. Authority is constant. The only opinion that matters is your own. Repeat it, embed it, act on it, live it. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Finally, internalize this. Every action, every decision, every thought must pass the filter of self-approval. Remove dependence on applause. Remove dependence on judgment. Build systems that reinforce internal standards. Repeat essential actions consistently. Track outcomes internally. Measure progress against personal benchmarks. This is discipline. This is authority. This is freedom. The only opinion that matters is your own. The only opinion that matters is your own. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Chapter 3 closes with a firm principle. Authority is not given. Authority is earned internally. Every external voice is optional. Every external observer is secondary. You act first. You measure second. You grow silently. You dominate without explanation. And now, you prepare for the next stage, the mirror test. Who are you without praise? You will learn how to observe yourself, track your growth privately, and remove comparison from your life. That is the bridge from self-approval to disciplined self-mastery. That is the next step. Chapter 4. The mirror test. Who are you without praise? You are not your reputation. You are not your audience. You are not their applause. You are the sum of your actions, repeated in silence. The only approval that matters is your own. You must internalize this. You must observe yourself without distraction. You must measure yourself without external influence. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Repeat it, embed it, live it. Most people fail because they measure progress externally. They seek praise for effort. They wait for recognition for work completed. They adjust behavior to please observers. This is dependence. This is distraction. This is lost energy. Approval is a tax on your life. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. The mirror test is simple. Each day, examine your behavior. Observe your actions. Track progress privately. Ask yourself, did I act according to my standards or to gain recognition? Did I focus on growth or on applause? Did I repeat actions that build mastery or perform for approval? This is the measure of authority. This is the discipline of self-assessment. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Here is the system. First, journal your actions daily. Record essential work completed. Record progress on skills. Record alignment with personal principles. Do not share. Do not post. Do not announce. This is private. This is yours. Measurement is internal. Approval is optional. Systems work silently. Discipline works consistently. Repetition compounds. Next, remove social comparison. Do not benchmark yourself against others. Ignore likes, comments, rankings, and reviews. Observe growth only against your prior self. Metrics are internal. Standards are personal. Progress is measured by repetition, accuracy, and consistency. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the system. Consider real examples. A professional writer posts for feedback, edits to please, and measures success by approval. Progress is sporadic. Identity is borrowed. Work is inconsistent. Now, a writer who journals privately, edits silently, tracks words written and concepts refined, and ignores social commentary, builds skill rapidly. Authority emerges quietly. Competent compounds. Recognition follows if it ever does. It does not matter. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Here is the behavioral exercise. Begin each day with reflection. List 3 actions that serve mastery. Execute them. Track privately. End each day with evaluation. Did you act for internal standards or external approval? Adjust. Refine. Repeat. This is conditioning. This is training. This is the bridge between understanding authority and implementing it. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You must accept discomfort. The crowd will not notice your efforts. Validation will not arrive instantly. Recognition will be absent. You must tolerate silence. You must endure absence. This is where growth occurs. This is where mastery is forged. Every repeated action compounds internally. Authority is built in private. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Systems amplify the mirror test. Use tracking sheets, private logs, and measurable goals. Evaluate your habits. Are they aligned with progress or with praise-seeking? Remove dependencies. Reduce reliance on external feedback. Reinforce internal metrics. Structure actions so outcomes are measurable without observation. Discipline over applause. Process over performance. That is the key. Consider historical figures. Albert Einstein worked in solitude, testing hypotheses without seeking approval. Recognition came later. Florence Nightingale analyzed data and implemented systems quietly, without expecting praise. Recognition followed the work. Their authority was internal first. External observation was irrelevant. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Practical rule. For the next 30 days, perform one task daily entirely in silence. Do not announce it. Do not seek feedback. Measure results privately. Record progress. Observe improvement. Repeat. Observe yourself without influence. This is training. This is discipline. This is mastery. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. Internalize this principle fully. Your audience is invisible. Your approval is irrelevant. Your identity is shaped by repeated actions, not applause. Systems, repetition, and measurement create authority. Social approval is optional. Internal discipline is mandatory. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Another system. At the end of each week, review your progress logs. Identify actions performed for external reasons. Reframe for internal growth. Eliminate approval-driven behavior. Strengthen consistency-driven behavior. Repeat essential actions. Track results privately. Reinforce the habit of silent execution. That is the bridge to mastery. That is the rule. That is the system. You must also understand the long-term effect. Seeking validation compounds distraction. Acting privately compounds skill. Over time, those who check the mirror develop independence from opinion. They develop unshakable focus. They cultivate self-worth that is not contingent on others. Authority becomes automatic. Discipline becomes habitual. That is the outcome. That is the goal. Finally, internalize the phrase, check the mirror, not the crowd. Check the mirror, not the crowd. It is a rule. It is a system. It is a measurement tool. Every decision, every action, every repeated behavior must pass this filter. If it is aligned with internal standards, execute. If it is aligned with applause, discard. Discipline over desire. Systems over noise. Repetition over distraction. That is the key. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. This chapter closes with clarity. Observation is not passive. Measurement is not optional. Mastery occurs silently. You must audit yourself daily. You must track growth privately. You must avoid comparison. You must reinforce internal authority. The next stage builds on this. build habits in silence. You will learn how to transform these observations into consistent, repeatable routines that compound over time. That is the next step. That is how private authority becomes permanent mastery. Chapter 5. Build habits in silence. Habits are your foundation. Habits are your leverage. Habits are silent. Habits do not seek recognition. Habits do not ask permission. They repeat. They compound. They grow. Systems and routines cultivate self-worth far more effectively than external validation. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Repeat it. Let it sink. Make it operational. Most people attempt change in bursts. They chase intensity. They chase dramatic results. They expect transformation overnight. This is failure waiting to happen. Radical change is unsustainable. Habits, repeated quietly, are permanent. Systems, executed consistently, are unshakable. You do not change your life. You change what you repeat. That is the principle. That is the framework. That is the rule. Consider the writer who publishes for attention. Every post, every article, every draft is performed for feedback. They adjust, revise, and censor for recognition. Progress is inconsistent. Authority is dependent on approval. Skill grows slowly. Now, consider the writer who writes privately. They track words written. They refine ideas. They measure comprehension. They improve quietly. Recognition may come later, or it may not. It does not matter. The habit compounds. Skill grows silently. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You can act without recognition. You can train without an audience. You can repeat essential actions privately. That is the key. That is the system. That is how internal authority is built. Here is the principle. Systems are stronger than motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Motivation is external. Systems repeat regardless of feeling. Habits executed consistently form identity. Your identity is not shaped by applause. It is shaped by repetition. Discipline is habitual action. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Begin with identification. List the actions that produce growth in your field. Do not list actions performed for recognition. List essential actions that compound skill. Write them down. Prioritize them. Commit to repetition. Track progress privately. Systems are neutral. They do not need validation. They only measure consistency. That is the framework. That is the discipline. Next, structure your environment to reinforce habits. Remove distractions. Eliminate triggers for approval seeking. Create spaces and routines that make repetition automatic. Morning routines, work blocks, practice sessions, journaling, private recording of progress. Track daily, weekly, monthly. Habits executed consistently build authority silently. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Consider historical examples. J.K. Rowling wrote privately for years before ever seeking publication. Her craft developed in silence. Skill compounded. Systems of writing, editing, and rewriting were practiced daily. When the world finally saw her work, mastery was evident. Authority had already been built. Habits preceded recognition. Repetition preceded validation. That is the system. That is the principle. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is a practical exercise. Identify one habit that builds your craft. Execute it daily for 30 days without announcement. Track privately. Do not share progress. Focus on repetition, not audience. Review weekly. Measure improvement internally. Adjust systems if needed. Repeat. Habit formation is compounding. Habits executed in silence produce results far louder than temporary applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. You must also recognize the compounding effect. Habits build on habits. Repetition compounds results. One consistent action repeated daily exceeds bursts of effort performed for recognition. Authority grows invisibly. Confidence strengthens silently. Self-worth becomes independent of observation. Systems, not spectacle, define mastery. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Now, implement structure. Create microsystems for each area of improvement. Writing, training, study, practice, creativity, work. Each system should define essential actions. Each system should track metrics privately. Each system should require no audience. Each system should reinforce repetition. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. That is the framework. That is the discipline. That is authority. Understand this fully. Habit is a form of silent power. Habit is invisible to observers. Habit is inescapable to those who practice it consistently. Habit transforms ability into competence. Competence transforms into mastery. Mastery commands respect naturally. You do not need to perform for approval. You do not need recognition to advance. You do not need applause to grow. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Finally, internalize repetition. Every repeated action strengthens identity. Every consistent routine builds authority. Every private measurement compounds skill. Systems enforce this. Habits implement it. Recognition may follow, or it may not. It does not matter. What matters is consistency. What matters is repetition. What matters is structural growth. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. Habits are louder than applause. This chapter closes with clarity. Systems and routines are your leverage. Habits performed privately build competence, confidence, and authority far more than external recognition. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Next, we move to Chapter 6, Rewire Your Brain for Self-Approval. You will learn mental techniques to reinforce internal validation, replace dependence on external opinion, and create a self-sustaining loop of confidence and discipline. That is the next stage. That is the system. That is the principle. Chapter 6, Rewire Your Brain for Self-Approval. Your mind is not neutral. It judges. It doubts. It seeks approval. It asks, am I enough? This question is the source of distraction. This question is the source of weakness. This question is the foundation of dependency. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You can reframe this thought. You can assert, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Repeat it. Embed it. Make it operational. Most people allow external signals to define worth. Praise inflates confidence temporarily. Criticism erodes it permanently. Approval becomes the metric. Judgment becomes the ruler. You must remove this system. You must create an internal feedback loop. Internal approval is constant. Internal validation is unshakable. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Here is the principle. Self-approval is a skill. It is trainable. It is measurable. It is system-dependent. Begin by auditing thoughts. Identify every instance where self-doubt arises. Record it. Observe triggers. Is it a social comparison? A perceived failure? A lack of recognition? Document patterns. Awareness is the first system. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Next, implement cognitive exercises. When self-doubt arises, pause. Reframe the thought. Replace "am I enough" with "I am enough." Observe the discomfort. Tolerate it. Repeat the assertion. Repeat it with conviction. Record the instance. Track frequency. Observe reduction over time. This is training. This is conditioning. This is reinforcement. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Incremental wins reinforce self-approval. Identify small actions that matter. Execute them daily. Measure privately. Celebrate completion internally. Do not announce. Do not seek recognition. Each one compounds confidence. Each repeated action strengthens internal feedback. The brain begins to trust itself. Self-doubt diminishes. Internal authority grows. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Consider real-world examples. Athletes who succeed do not rely on crowd affirmation during practice. They track performance. They record incremental improvements. They adjust systems internally. Confidence emerges from repeated action. Recognition is secondary. Writers who produce daily, privately, develop certainty in skill. Validation comes from the system. Internal feedback becomes habitual. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Now implement a practical system. Morning reflection. Write 3 affirmations of competence. Examples. I am enough to complete this task. I am enough to pursue this skill consistently. I am enough to follow my principles without approval. Repeat aloud. Journal results. Track adherence. End the day with reflection. Did internal standards guide action? Or did external opinion interfere? Adjust. Refine. Repeat. This is structural self-approval. That is the system. That is the discipline. Mental boundaries are essential. External criticism will exist. Praise will fluctuate. You cannot control it. You must control internal evaluation. All input must pass through the filter. Does this influence my growth? Does this align with my principles? Everything else is noise. Authority operates within internal measurement. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Another technique, visualization. Imagine yourself acting according to principles, without approval. Imagine success measured privately. Imagine growth assessed by repeated action. Your mind records these scenarios. Neural pathways adjust. Confidence strengthens. Self-approval becomes automatic. Repetition compounds neural conditioning. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Behavioral rule. For 30 days, record every thought of self-doubt. Reframe it immediately. Track triggers. Perform incremental actions aligned with internal standards. Do not seek recognition. Measure privately. Record wins. Observe reduction in self-doubt. Observe growth in internal authority. This is training. This is conditioning. This is rewiring. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Understand fully. Self-approval is independent of performance. Self-approval is independent of others. Self-approval is sourced from repetition, reflection, and measurement. Habits, systems, and mental exercises enforce it. Approval is optional. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Finally, internalize the long-term effect. Self-doubt drains energy. Approval dependence distracts from growth. Self-approval compounds confidence. Authority becomes independent. Discipline becomes resilient. Focus becomes unshakable. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Repeat until embedded. Execute daily. Measure privately. Strengthen systems. Grow silently. This chapter closes with clarity. Your task is to rewire your brain for self-approval. Audit thoughts, reframe doubts, track incremental wins, reinforce internal feedback, build a system where confidence does not require applause. Discipline, repetition, and internal evaluation create mastery. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. You are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Next, we move to Chapter 7, the freedom of silent progress. You will learn how to act without observation, measure results privately, and let authority and mastery emerge naturally. That is the next stage. That is the bridge from self-approval to real-world execution. Chapter 7, the freedom of silent progress. True power is not performed. True authority is not announced. Real growth occurs in obscurity. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Repeat it. Let anchor your strategy. Let define your approach. Most people seek recognition. They chase attention. They announce progress prematurely. They adjust actions to gain applause. They publicize effort instead of results. This is distraction. This is vulnerability. This is taxation on your life. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Consider the entrepreneur who launches publicly before systems are stable. Every step is broadcast. Every draft is critiqued. Every failure is visible. Momentum is fragile. Reputation is tied to perception. Adjustment becomes reactionary. Risk compounds unnecessarily. They fail publicly because they depend on external validation. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Now consider the entrepreneur who builds quietly. They design systems. They test internally. They refine strategies. They measure success privately. Actions are repeated in silence. Failures are internalized and corrected. Competence compounds without interference. When they release publicly, results are inevitable. Authority is earned. Recognition follows performance. Success is stable. That is the principle. That is the system. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Silent progress is not secrecy for ego. It is structure for mastery. It is strategy for authority. Every action is measured, repeated, and reinforced privately. External judgment is irrelevant. Momentum is protected. Systems amplify efficiency. Progress accumulates without distraction. Habits performed consistently in silence compound skill far faster than recognition-driven effort. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Here is the practical system. Begin by defining essential actions. Identify which tasks advance skill, knowledge, or output. Execute these tasks privately. Track performance internally. Measure results by personal standards. Evaluate outcomes without seeking praise. Repetition is the mechanism. Systems enforce execution. Recognition is optional. Discipline is non-negotiable. That is the framework. That is the rule. Consider real-world examples. A creator posts content daily for feedback. Changes style based on comments. Adjust direction based on likes. Progress is inconsistent. Authority is borrowed. Meanwhile, a creator who experiments privately develops competence through repetition. Metrics are internal. Failures are corrected without external pressure. Growth is compounding. When work is released publicly, it dominates naturally. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Implement this exercise for 30 days. Select one significant task. Execute entirely in private. Track results internally. Do not announce. Do not post. Do not seek feedback. Evaluate outcomes against personal benchmarks. Adjust systems. Repeat. This trains the brain to value process over praise. It reinforces internal authority. It creates a self-sustaining cycle of growth. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Silent progress requires patience. The world will not notice early effort. External affirmation is absent. Discipline must persist despite invisibility. Momentum builds gradually. Skills compound quietly. Systems reinforce themselves. Authority is internalized before being recognized externally. You must tolerate discomfort. You must trust repetition. You must act without audience. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Another system. Schedule private practice sessions for your craft. Measure micro-progress. Record quantitative and qualitative improvements privately. Reflect weekly on alignment with principles. Identify actions performed for approval and eliminate them. Strengthen habits that reinforce silent repetition. The combination of consistency, measurement, and invisibility compounds authority. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Historical examples illustrate this principle clearly. Steve Jobs worked on prototypes in secret. Failures were hidden. Adjustments were internalized. Competence compounded silently. When products were revealed, authority was unquestionable. Public recognition was the consequence of internal mastery. The pattern is consistent. Progress performed in silence produces stability, while progress performed for applause is fragile. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Understand fully. Success is rarely linear. Noise will exist. Critics will appear. Recognition may come slowly or not at all. Do not rely on them. Do not adjust for them. Internal systems, repeated action, and private measurement are your indicators. Authority emerges from execution, not observation. Discipline protects momentum. Habits enforce growth. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Finally, internalize the principle. Action is more important than announcement. Skill is more important than attention. Mastery is built in private. Recognition is a byproduct. Systems amplify repetition. Habits compound results. Authority becomes unshakable. The choice is yours. Perform for applause or act in silence. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. Progress unseen is power earned. This chapter closes with clarity. Real power grows in obscurity. Silent progress protects focus, reinforces discipline, and compounds skill. Public performance is optional. Private repetition is mandatory. Next, we move to Chapter 8. Avoid the comparison trap. You will learn how to eliminate external benchmarks, focus on internal growth, and prevent social comparison from diluting your authority. That is the next stage. That is the system. That is the principle. Chapter 8. Avoid the comparison trap. Comparison is a trap. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Repeat it. Embed it. Let it guide your decisions. Every time you measure yourself against another, you lose focus. Every time you chase someone else's progress, you forfeit your own. Every time you envy, you weaken your discipline. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the key. Most people look outward to measure worth. They scroll feeds, they check rankings, they observe successes. They adjust effort to match perception. They imitate. They compete for recognition. They exhaust themselves. Their energy is stolen. Their focus is lost. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Now consider social media. Every like, every post, every curated highlight becomes a benchmark. You evaluate your life against fragments. You judge your progress by appearances. This is not growth. This is illusion. You chase approval indirectly. You sacrifice authenticity. You undermine your own authority. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Instead, focus internally. Establish personal benchmarks. Track skill, effort, and consistency privately. Measure growth against past performance. Evaluate repetition, mastery, and alignment with principles. External signals are irrelevant. Comparison is meaningless. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Here is the system. Daily reflection. Each morning, identify one action that advances competence. Execute it without observation. Track results privately. End the day by reviewing progress against personal standards. No external feedback. No approval required. Growth is measured internally. Repetition compounds skill. Comparison steals time. Comparison steals focus. Comparison steals energy. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Consider real examples. A professional scrolls social feeds, compares accomplishments, and feels inadequate. Effort falters. Habits are inconsistent. Progress stalls. Meanwhile, a professional tracks personal performance metrics. Repetition is prioritized. Skills are measured against personal past performance. Progress compounds. Authority grows quietly. Recognition may follow later. It does not matter. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Another system. Limit exposure to external benchmarks. Reduce time spent observing others. Remove triggers for envy. Audit the sources of comparison. Identify moments when attention is diverted. Replace with action aligned with internal metrics. Execute silently. Measure privately. Reflect objectively. That is discipline. That is authority. That is self-mastery. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Comparison fuels insecurity. Insecurity fuels approval seeking. Approval seeking undermines internal authority. Observe the chain. Break the chain. Act without external input. Track without validation. Measure against yourself only. The mind will resist. It will demand social validation. It will ask for reassurance. Do not comply. Train it. Condition it. Rewire it. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Consider historical examples. Leonardo da Vinci worked for decades in obscurity. He did not compete with contemporaries. He measured progress internally. Mastery emerged silently. Recognition was a consequence, not a requirement. Social comparison never dictated effort. Authority came from repetition, reflection, and internal measurement. That is the system. That is the rule. That is discipline. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is a behavioral rule. For 30 days, track every instance of comparison. Each time you notice judgment based on others' success, record it. Then immediately shift focus. Ask, I aligned with my system? Am I progressing privately? Am I repeating essential actions? Replace envy with execution. Replace distraction with measurement. Repeat daily. Track privately. Condition your mind. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. You must understand the long-term effect. Comparison compounds distraction. It fragments focus. It steals energy. It undermines growth. Internal measurement compounds authority. Silent repetition strengthens self-worth. Systems executed consistently build mastery. You do not need external approval to advance. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Finally, internalize this principle. Every action, thought, and decision should pass the filter. Am I acting for myself, or am I acting for someone else? Am I building skill, or am I chasing perception? Measure, repeat, and reinforce internal standards. Ignore social comparison. Ignore external rankings. Ignore the crowd. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. Comparison is a thief. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. This chapter closes with clarity. External benchmarks are distractions. Social comparison undermines authority. Internal measurement strengthens skill, repetition, and discipline. Focus on yourself, act silently, and let results accumulate privately. Next, we move to Chapter 9. Take radical responsibility for your self-worth. You will learn how to claim complete control over your internal evaluation, eliminate dependence on approval, and establish a system of unshakable self-confidence. That is the next stage. That is the system. That is the principle. Chapter 9. Take radical responsibility for your self-worth. Your worth is not given. It is claimed. Your confidence is not borrowed. It is earned internally. Most people outsource their self-worth. They wait for approval. They depend on praise. They rely on recognition. This is weakness. This is distraction. This is lost energy. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Repeat it. Embed it. Internalize it. External validation is fleeting. Praise fades. Criticism arrives. Recognition shifts. When you allow your confidence to depend on others, you surrender control. You allow your energy to be taxed. You allow your focus to be fragmented. You allow your growth to stall. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. That is the system. That is the discipline. Radical responsibility begins with awareness. Audit your dependence. Identify moments when confidence fluctuates based on external signals. Note the triggers: social media, feedback, judgment, or comparison. Observe how these moments influence action, habit, and decision-making. Awareness is the first structural step. Awareness allows control. Awareness creates freedom. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Now, implement a daily system. Each morning, write 3 affirmations grounded in internal standards. Examples: I am competent regardless of recognition. I measure my growth privately. I act with discipline and consistency. Track adherence. Repeat daily. Reinforce mental pathways. Self-worth is not granted. It is constructed through repetition, reflection, and internal measurement. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Next, adopt accountability journaling. Each evening, record actions aligned with internal principles. Identify moments when behavior relied on external approval. Note corrective steps for the future. Measure growth against private benchmarks. Reflect on consistency, not applause. External validation is optional. Internal alignment is mandatory. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Consider real-world examples. Leaders, creators, and innovators often fail publicly because they seek approval first. Confidence is outsourced. Decisions are reactionary. Momentum falters. Meanwhile, those who take radical responsibility act internally. They track progress privately. They evaluate results by internal standards. Their authority is unshakable. Success is inevitable. Recognition is a byproduct. That is the system. That is the principle. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is a behavioral exercise. For 30 days, identify every instance you seek approval or validation externally. For each, take one corrective action. Shift the metric internally, act silently, or track privately. End each day with reflection. Did you maintain self-worth without relying on applause? Did you act with internal authority? Did you reinforce your independence from opinion? Track consistently. Repetition enforces control. Internalization compounds authority. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Understand fully. Self-worth cannot be transferred. Confidence cannot be outsourced. Authority cannot be borrowed. Every attempt to delegate your validation weakens your system. Every reliance on external input taxes your life. Discipline and repetition build internal strength. Habits executed consistently reinforce competence. Metrics measured privately compound confidence. This is radical responsibility. This is mastery. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Now, create structural safeguards. Reduce exposure to praise-seeking triggers. Limit social comparison. Avoid constant feedback loops that measure value externally. Design daily routines to reinforce internal measurement. Use journaling, reflection, and private tracking to measure competence. Habits, systems, and repetition enforce self-worth. External signals become irrelevant. Internal authority becomes permanent. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Consider historical examples. Abraham Lincoln faced criticism, ridicule, and doubt throughout his life. He acted according to principles, measured by his internal standards. He did not outsource confidence. He did not rely on temporary applause. He acted consistently. Momentum compounded. Authority emerged. His worth was self-owned. Internal evaluation drove mastery. Recognition followed, but it was never the goal. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Finally, internalize the principle. Radical responsibility means no excuses. Confidence is self-generated. Authority is internalized. Growth is measured privately. Repetition compounds competence. Systems reinforce independence. Self-worth is a choice and a practice. Every action, every thought, every repeated behavior must pass the filter. Am I acting for internal standards or for external approval? Measure internally. Act privately. Reinforce daily. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. Your worth is yours to own. This chapter closes with clarity. You have complete control over your self-worth. You are responsible for your confidence. External approval is irrelevant. Discipline, reflection, and private measurement are mandatory. Repetition compounds mastery. Systems enforce authority. Next, we move to Chapter 10, the final system, living without permission. You will learn how to integrate all principles into a permanent structure of self-mastery, independence, and silent authority. That is the next stage. That is the system. That is the principle. Chapter 10. Execute quietly, impact loudly. Action is the foundation. Execution is the weapon. Attention is optional. Most people chase visibility. Most people explain effort. Most people seek applause. This is distraction. This is vulnerability. True power is earned silently. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Repeat it. Embed it. Make it your principle. Execution without observation compounds influence. When effort is repeated privately, mastery develops faster. When systems are refined quietly, results become inevitable. Recognition is a byproduct, not a goal. Public explanation is irrelevant. Public performance is optional. What matters is action aligned with principle, repeated consistently, measured internally. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Consider innovators and creators. They build in silence. They test, refine, and execute privately. When the world observes, the impact is undeniable. Elon Musk developed systems internally before launching public projects. J.K. Rowling wrote for years privately. Nikola Tesla experimented in isolation. Authority emerges quietly. Recognition follows naturally. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. The principle is clear. Stop explaining. Stop performing for attention. Stop justifying effort. Action produces results. Repetition compounds skill. Systems enforce discipline. Outcomes speak louder than words. Authority becomes visible without being advertised. Internal control precedes external impact. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Here is the system. Identify essential actions that produce measurable outcomes. Execute them consistently in private. Track progress internally. Refine systems silently. Adjust without audience. Repetition compounds mastery. Ignore approval. Ignore commentary. Ignore spectators. Authority is built in private. Impact is observed publicly. That is the framework. That is the discipline. That is the rule. Real-world exercise. For 30 days, select one major project or skill. Work exclusively in private. Document outcomes internally. Do not announce progress. Avoid sharing preliminary results. Refine quietly. Repeat daily. At the end of the period, observe accumulated results. Evaluate growth. Observe skill compounding. Recognize authority built silently. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Understand fully. Noise is distraction. Applause is optional. Recognition is secondary. Systems, repetition, and internal measurement are primary. Focus on mastery. Focus on execution. Focus on consistent, measurable action. Public impact will follow naturally. No explanation is necessary. No validation is required. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Historical examples illustrate this principle. Steve Jobs and his team worked on prototypes for years without disclosure. Their systems and execution were private. When released, impact was undeniable. Authority had already been established. Elon Musk iterates internally before product announcements. Nikola Tesla's experiments were largely unseen. Public dominance emerged from silent, repeated execution. The lesson is clear. Results matter more than explanation. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Do in silence. Impact and volume. Behavioral rule. Audit all actions currently performed for recognition. Identify which efforts are performed for applause rather than mastery. Reframe those actions to be executed privately. Track outcomes internally. Repeat consistently. Eliminate attention-seeking behavior. Strengthen systems that reinforce action over explanation. Discipline compounds. Authority emerges. Progress becomes inevitable. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. The mental shift is critical. Release the need for approval. Release the compulsion to announce effort. Release the expectation of instant recognition. Trust the system. Trust repetition. Trust silent execution. Observe outcomes objectively. Impact will follow naturally. Influence grows quietly. Mastery becomes visible without declaration. Do in silence. Impact in volume. Do in silence. Impact in volume. Do in silence. Impact in volume. Finally, internalize the long-term principle. Action without attention compounds influence. Silence protects focus. Repetition compounds mastery. Systems enforce discipline. Recognition is optional. Authority emerges independently. Public impact is inevitable when private action is repeated and measured consistently. You have a choice. You do not need their permission. Do in silence. Impact in volume. Do in silence. Impact in volume. Do in silence. Impact in volume. This chapter and this audiobook closes with clarity. You are now equipped to stop seeking validation, stop performing for approval, measure growth internally, build habits in silence, and execute with authority. The system is complete. The discipline is internalized. The results will speak for themselves. Your responsibility is to act. Your responsibility is to repeat. Your responsibility is to execute quietly and let the impact resonate loudly. If you want more frameworks like this delivered in complete audiobook format, actionable and system-focused, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. Reinforce the habit of silent growth. Internalize systems. Apply the principles consistently. Let your execution be the signal. Let results be the volume. Do in silence. Impact in volume.